It's 4 o'clock on Thursday, and you know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi's Quarantini Happy Hour. Hello, you guys. How are you? Today, if I can find my notes, I want to talk to you about a little rehash of comb filtering, a music supervisor that I'd be interested in getting for the road rally, and I want to see if you'd be interested in having her. And the heartfelt singer-songwriting listing that people have been asking about. Why did it take 5 weeks? Beyond that, it's going to be a Q&A day. Let's take a look at that chat room. Hello, everybody. We've got John Pearson, Ewart Williams, Jesse J. Peck, Marion Laird, Ken Mesford, Peter Ray Hill, Andre Stepani, and Bob Gunnerfelt. It's like the band is back together. Dean Turner, Michael Lehman, Pat Wara. Aloha, Pat. Anyway, hello, lady. Actually, at the moment, I think it's lady singular and gent. Dean Kataska's back. Good to see you, Dean. Terrell Beckless. Anyway, how are you guys? Getting close to the weekend already. It was a short week, at least for those of us in the U.S., because Monday was a holiday. I hit Trader Joe's yesterday, got the big stash of the chocolate-covered coffee beans. And you know what? I got 7 hours of sleep last night, which is actually a lot for me. I think I've been averaging 5.5 hours for some reason for the last couple of years. And no matter what time I go to bed, 5.5 hours later, I seem to wake up. Blackout curtains. Even if I take like an over-the-counter sleep thing, I get some at Costco or Amazon or something that are the equivalent of Sominex. I forget what but you're supposed to take 1 or 2 pills. I remember one time I took 2 of them and I was like, the entire next day. So then I took 1, still kind of dopey. Then I was taking half. Now I'm down to 1/3 of a tiny little pill that's like the size of a BB. Anyway, and I still wake up stupid. So that's why I'm eating those coffee beans today. I want to shut this down. Sorry. Got to get rid of something here. Okay, there we go. That is shut down. And I want to check one more thing here. There I am. And before I forget, because I know I'll forget, if you guys could go give us a like so that YouTube likes us better, I'd appreciate that. And here I am, back in the chat room. I used to try, hey, Music to Motion, good to see you. I used to take melatonin. It worked for a little while, and then it didn't work anymore. I'm just a terrible sleeper, even in my own bed. That's like people, sometimes when we go on a trip and friends will say, oh, come and stay at our house. No. I have a tough time sleeping literally in my own bed. Hey, Darren Moss, how are you? And John Hope, good to see you. So anyway, I want to tell you guys something exciting came in the mail for me yesterday. The new music publishing book by Bobby Borg. Woo, that's tough. Bobby Borg and Michael Ames. I've had them both on Taxi TV. They did a thing at the Road Rally last year. Bobby Borg is a great teacher. Was a taxi screener for many, many years, like 10 years or more. Also a drummer in the band Warrant. And Michael Ames is a very long-time publisher. And I always tell him, I think he's so smart and so well-informed on all things music and publishing related that he actually knows more than most attorneys about publishing, than most music attorneys. He's quite brilliant. So anyway, this book came, and I was looking through here, and what did I see that I thought was funny? I don't know. Oh, something about, joint works. And I saw that, the first thing that popped into my head means it only took one hit. Joint work, obviously, in the framework or the context of music publishing. Anyway, I did spend about 20 minutes to a half an hour going through this book yesterday, and I was quite blown away. It's written in plain English. It's extremely comprehensive. Covers everything that I could think of. Has a bunch of great interviews in it. I'm not plugging it because I make a penny on it. I'm not plugging it because both of these guys are my friends. You know, if I looked at the book and didn't think that it was well worth your, let's see, how much is it? Doesn't say. It just came out. $127. No, it's not. It doesn't have the price on it. I have no idea. I would guess that it's probably in the 20 or 30 buck range. It's 320 pages, 321. Ooh. Yep, 321 pages. Let's see if they've mentioned taxi in here. That way I will like the book even better. I didn't even look at the table of contents. There's Taxi Music, page 172. Thank you, Bobby and Michael. Good guys. I don't know why we made it into a book about publishing, because we are not a publisher, but let's see what they've got to say. Placing Music, part 2. Blah, 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 blah. Co-writers, good suggestion right there, right? Working with co-writers that may already have an in somewhere. Here we go. Michael Lasko of Taxi Music, an independent A&R company, states that collaborations have been one of the cooler things that he's seen come out of his annual Taxi Road Rally conventions that he puts on in Los Angeles, California. People come to the rally from all parts of the world to listen to great speakers, but most of all to find partners with whom they can collaborate. So in sum, the idea is simple. If you want to get placements on other artists' records and in film, TV, or ads, find someone who's already getting placements and form a fruitful partnership. Just be clear on what your strengths are and how you can benefit the other parties involved. True that. Collaborations can be one of your quickest routes to success, so get out there and start to network. Yep, and as we all know, and they mentioned in there, you got to have the goods. I mean, if you're at a C+, B- level and you meet people that are in the A range, you better do something unique and valuable, as you know, that they need. Otherwise, your C+, B-, even B or B+ isn't enticing to them. They can do it without you. But if they need somebody who's just an amazing vocalist, and, you know, let's say that you're a B- writer, but you're an A+ vocalist, that's how you get to work with the A team. Obviously, it's just one example, but that works. Let's see, anything else in here? Scanning. They mention many song pluggers are very selective, will work only with artists who meet certain requirements and levels of expertise. Yeah, that makes sense. Others are open to the public, will work for an annual membership fee. One of the membership-based companies that gets very favorable reviews and has been around for a long time, that's for sure, 29 years, is Taxi A&R. As previously stated, Michael Lasko of Taxi is a good friend of ours, and I, this is Bobby speaking, yes, parenthetically, have professionally consulted with Taxi as a music screener and coach to independent artists. Thus, I can personally tell you that I've seen many artists succeed using Taxi services and would not hesitate to personally recommend it. Thank you, Bobby, if you're watching, which I doubt, but thank you. All things said about Taxi, be clear, it's not like you just pay a fee, upload your music, and you're guaranteed income. Yeah, that would be a scam. That's what they call that. Your music must be good, and you must be willing to learn from the advice that's offered. In time, you might build up a nice list of credentials, even get signed to a deal. Hey, it worked for the band Crossfade, who was a Taxi member for several years. Maybe Taxi or some other song plugger can work for you. Give it a try. Okay. Well, Thank you guys. And seriously, I really did look. Wow, I turned orange. I really did look through a lot of this book yesterday and was very impressed. But both those guys are class acts. I knew they wouldn't turn something in that was mediocre. It looked really good. Not just, wow, this is pretty good. It looked like, holy crap, this is really, really good. So I'm assuming because maybe I got my copy pre the sale date. I don't know. But Google Introduction to Music Publishing for Musicians on a search on Amazon. Here, I can do that while we're on air today because I'm a multitasker. Let's see. Amazon Introduction to Music Publishing for Musicians. There it is. It's $34. Already has 5 reviews. Was released on June 3rd. Wow. Okay. So there you go. Did any of you guys watch the thing that Michael Ames and Bobby Borg did last year, which was about publishing? Hello, Karen Brasher. I did it with them at the Road Rally. Can't remember if it was a prequel or if it was a regular part of the Road Rally. They're both incredibly good at everything they do. They are the kind of people who make sure that any work they turn in is done really, really well. You thought it said Bobby Bong? I'm sure people have thought that before. Now, he should change his first name to Cy, so his name would be Cyborg, right? Just saying. Andre selling fishing gear on Craigslist? No. Hopefully it's fishing gear. You know, look, you're allowed to sell fishing gear if you haven't caught anything on that rod or with that reel or with that lure or fly. Sell it. It got bad juju, man. No fish are going to bite that. Oh, cool. Andre actually watched the Bobby Borg thing last year. Andre, you're not selling the good gear, right? Only the stuff that doesn't catch fish? All right. I had other topics that I wanted to talk about before we just get into general Q&A, or I could just sit here and watch what I am not nobody can afford my fishing gear. I don't really understand that. Comb filtering. The other day, about 5 minutes after I said it, did I say something like that you have to have them 180 degrees out of phase? What I meant to say was you have to have them lined up, and then as you minutely and gradually shift the delay, you know, from like, I don't know, maybe 0 to 30 milliseconds. Remember the song Life in the Fast Lane by the Eagles, where it goes into like a break thing where it goes, Life in the Fast Lane. Is that my Randy Meisner? No, I don't remember who sang that one. Anyway, what happens is when two sources are minutely delayed from each other. One's the original source, the other one is the delay when it's very close, not 180 degrees out of phase, but maybe it's like 1 degree out of phase, or it's milliseconds actually, a millisecond out of phase to 5, 10, 15, 20. But what I think I was thinking on my head is if you sweep, like you were going to sweep all the way to the left, whatever, turn the knob. Back in my day, we actually put our hands on the reels of the tape machine. That's why they call it flanging. Flanging was taking it to another level, controlling it with the palm of your hand on the flange of the reel of tape. Because you would send the same signal to 2 tape machines, take the output from those 2 quarter-inch machines, bring it back into 2 faders on the console, and that identical sound source delayed minutely in, you know, like, I don't know, 30 milliseconds or less, makes a comb filtering effect, which really looks like a comb. It's a bunch of notches that take out frequencies. And it depends on how big the delay, that minute delay is, as to which frequencies it notches out. So by putting your hand on the reel of one of the tape machines, you're affecting the delay time, and that causes the comb to move across the frequency spectrum and give you the flangey sound. So there you go. So that's that. All right. Everybody snap to and pay attention. I really need you to... Actually, I'm going to go make it cooler in here. I don't know why, but ever since daylight savings time kicked in, my air conditioner now goes warmer later in the day. Or earlier in the day. I could actually hook up an app on my phone to control that thermostat across the room if I really had my act together. Okay, everybody paying attention, I want to get your opinion to see if this music supervisor would be a good person to invite to the road rally. I know she works a lot. I had her on a panel, I think it was at the road rally, maybe the Durango thing or Hawaii thing. I think it's the road rally because it was more than 20 years ago, I believe. And her name is Mary Ramos. And the thing that makes Mary Ramos so interesting is that she's been the music supervisor on virtually all of the Quentin Tarantino movies. And I've got to say, I don't think anybody has more interesting music in their movies than Quentin Tarantino. So would anybody be interested in having her possibly even as the keynote, certainly as a guest? While you guys are thinking, I'm going to eat my last chocolate-covered coffee bean. Now, she doesn't only work with Quentin Tarantino, but I'm sure she's got amazing stories. All right, we're getting a positive response. I remember when I had her on the panel last time, it was many years ago, and she was still like an up-and-comer. She was probably 2 or 3 years into being a full-fledged music soup. I remember that she was a fast talker, not in a bad way, but I mean, she gets a lot of information out very quickly. She holds nothing back, is my recollection. A lot of good inside baseball stories. And I remember enjoying her on the panel. And I mean, now she's got, maybe 15 years or more of Quentin Tarantino movies that she's done. One of the things I love about the music in his movies is oftentimes, it's a period piece that takes place at a certain time period, and most of the music will be reflective of that actual era. But then every now and then they slip in a piece of music that's completely and utterly juxtaposed and unexpected, and you chuckle to yourself. So he's one of the few directors, and maybe she's one of the few music supervisors working with a director like that, that's not afraid to let the music do more than just be supportive of the emotion. Sometimes they let the music walk to the front of the stage, take a bow, and go, "Ha, pretty cool, right?" So I just find that interesting and think that she might be really cool to have. Yeah, if she signs on, maybe I'll ask her if she'd be comfortable calling Quentin so we can ask him like one question or something. I heard that he's getting ready to quit making movies. I don't know if there's any truth to that. I mean, it's kind of like athletes that swear that they're going to retire from football and then they join another team. Okay, heartfelt singer-songwriter listing number S210529HF. That number again in America is S as in Sam 210529HF. That was the listing looking for heartfelt music that is going on a taxi compilation that will go out. Honestly, I don't think I've ever asked Tom for a specific number, but I would imagine anywhere between 15 and 25 of our favorite, active current music library clients, probably a couple of soups in there as well. And the thinking was that it was timely because now it feels like COVID is mostly over, although I don't know what to make of the news. It's like, COVID's pretty over, masks are off, and then it's like, but the Delta strain, and the numbers did go up in LA. They went from like probably 200 cases a day to the high 400s last time I checked. But apparently hospitalizations and deaths are not going up. But the Delta strain, so they say, is more contagious. Who knows? Who the hell knows what to believe, who to believe, what to do? Don't know. But all that said, we thought, well, that means that now finally Hollywood is really back to shooting stuff. And there's a whole process, of course. They've got to, I'm sure that people have been writing the whole time during quarantine/lockdown. Remember that when it first started? It was 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and it ended up being like 16 or 17 months. Bad calendaring. So I'm sure that people were writing. I'm sure that scripts were moving around Hollywood. I'm pretty sure stuff was still getting green-lighted. Do you say green-lighted or green-lit? Maybe green-lit. And there was a moment, I remember, before that second peak, which I think happened in September or December or something. Anyway, they started shooting stuff again, but it was very clunky. It's like really, really hard to socially distance on a movie set with a couple hundred people. Anything from craft service to camera crews to grips to just all those people. And moving them around, I don't know if people are familiar with how important the drivers are for a movie. But usually on a fairly big movie shoot, they'll have a dozen or more vans, and each van has a driver, and they're constantly sitting there waiting. Can you take, Leonardo to this restaurant for lunch? Can you go pick up a script from so-and-so? Those vans are always moving. I only know this in detail because we used to have a neighbor down the hall in Woodland Hills that did that. She was part-time casting assistant and part-time van driver on big movies, and she actually made a lot of money driving the vans on the movies and got to meet a lot of big stars. So anyway, all that said, things are starting to loosen back up. Productions are starting to flow again. And finally, the movies, I am starting to see TV shows already with people wearing masks during the show. It's written into the script. But I think now we're going to start to see the films come out that will be, like the Hallmark movies and what have you, that are about a traumatic time, either getting through COVID physically, with the illness, or emotionally from being cooped up, or other trials and tribulations, husband and wife, they're about to get divorced and want to kill each other, and unfortunately because of quarantine they've got to suck it up and stay under the same roof for the next 16 months, even though they hate each other. That would be cute to watch. So we put together this compilation. We've done listings. We had a lot of listings when COVID first started, people that were looking for that stuff in anticipation of these movies of the week and episodes of TV shows coming out that would be topically along these lines. Unfortunately, the lockdown was way longer than 2 weeks, let's stop the spread. And so a lot of those ideas that people had, scripts that got written, never got turned into shows. And now they are. So we ran the listing to put together the compilation and send it out. And it came to me, the final cut, the almost final cut, I should say, of stuff came to me, and I listened to it, and there were some things on there that I personally, it's not a matter of did I like it or not like it. The songs were all very good, really good. But there were a couple that I felt, yeah, I don't know if this would be good for a library or if it'd be good for that kind of show. The lyric skews a little bit too relationship-y, and doesn't really, it's not really neutral enough, generic enough, or universal enough that you wouldn't hear that it's more about the relationship than anything else. So it would have to go in to a film that had a story about a relationship. So all that said is I asked Tom to send it out to 2 music library CEOs that I think have good taste and the right kind of clients that would be interested in this stuff. And one of the music library CEOs said, I actually like number 3, 5, and 9 on the list. And the other one said, everything on here is good enough that it's worthy of being signed to a library. That library CEO wasn't like, wow, man, there's some great stuff on here. And frankly, I mean, to be completely and utterly honest and transparent, which I always try to be, I was hoping we would find stuff that would blow people away. Not just be like, wow, this is good enough to go in my library, or I could pitch this to some people. I mean, certainly that's something, that doesn't suck by any stretch of the imagination. I just wanted stuff on there that was like, holy crap, why haven't I been running listings with Taxi like every week? This stuff is amazing. We didn't get a lot of that. And the reason that we don't get a lot of that for these compilations is that our hardest working, best music making members get to a level where they're working directly with the libraries and in some cases supervisors, and they just don't have time to create stuff for listings because they're already backlogged on trying to fill orders from relationships they've built by using Taxi. It's funny, I use that as a marketing thing because it's completely and utterly true. And the same thing is true for instrumental cues. We find this over and over, once people get to a certain level where they move beyond competent and become good, and there's something like a little special about their music they're making, where it's just more signable, more usable, more pitchable. All of a sudden, they've got requests coming in from 4, 5, 6 different sources. It could be only one source, and it makes them too busy to actually respond to Taxi. Therefore, we're always having to reach out and try and find new members, especially on the instrumental side, that can do that stuff, because we have to send good music to our clients over and over and over again. Not just good, but great. Or they quit running listings. It's like, why should I go back to a well that's not sending me amazing stuff? They're not wrong for thinking that. So that's why we have put an emphasis on education over the last couple of years around here to take the members that are at B and B plus level and turn them into A and A plusers, and to bring in a fresh crop of new people who we can throw fertilizer and water on and hope that over the next year or two that they bloom into A people. But there's always that attrition of our very best members. And it's funny, they don't quit Taxi. They'll renew their memberships, but they don't pay as much attention to the listings because they're getting so much work from the relationships they built from the company. John Pearson says, I was going to send in a song for that compilation, but it became part of a 10-song album for a library. I was hoping I would see something from you in there, JP, because I knew, you would nail that in a minute. Why are we talking about it's Christmas time for composers? Did I miss something? It is July 8th, right? I know that we're starting to get requests for Christmas music already. We had a nice little run about a month ago where we were getting a lot of requests for Christmas stuff, and one of the library CEOs, who's a friend of mine, said, by the way, I'm going to be bombarding you guys with Christmas. There we go. Christmas requests soon. So I think we're going to see a lot of that. Yeah, last year, I didn't even think about this, but for Christmas 2020, I'll bet you that a lot of the shows were recycled from previous years because they couldn't shoot new stuff. So there you go. Maybe there will be a bumper crop of requests for Christmas this year. Oh, you're welcome, JP. I mean, I really, truly did think of you. I could think of like you and 4 other people that would be my go-tos, that if I needed that kind of song, needed it quick, and needed to know that I was going to get A's and A pluses, you would be on a very short list of members. Sometimes that happens, where we get a request that comes in and we don't have enough time to run it as a listing, but we don't want to disappoint the client. And we will reach out to certain members that we know can turn something around overnight and make it great. And we are progressing, by the way, with the whole concept of the taxi garage. I don't want to be elaborate in my conversation, but I can tell you that the staff has been testing it. Ever since I brought it up like 2 months ago or something, the staff, the in-house A&R staff, the people who run the A&R department have been testing it. And I think it's safe to say they went in with a little bit of like, yeah, right, it's a robot. How good can that work? And they came out of it going, this thing works. Now remember, its job is not to pick the best song or the best instrumental. Its job is how close to the references can I find stuff? And you can adjust. Should I, you tell the robot, lean heavily on a lyric match, or more heavily on the lyric match than, let's say, the melodic match, or lean more heavily on tempo or mood or whatever. It's got several aspects, and you can kind of push up sliders or something and tell it which of those aspects, or it will give you feedback saying this is a match because it's very close to the melodic intervals of the reference song. So we are looking at all kinds of ways that it can work for our members. And I actually didn't blow off. I blew a meeting. I was supposed to meet with the guys this morning, but they sent me the email at like 12:20 a.m. And last night I actually went to bed around 11:30, which is rare. And so I missed their email, and I was supposed to meet with them at 10 o'clock this morning. But I'm sure I will meet with them very, very soon. And we'll work out the details. It will be pretty complex on our end to roll it out, figure out how we have to charge for it, depending on how much we have to pay. That will be based on how much we use it, how many songs, all kinds of parameters. It'll be for songs and instrumentals. Anyway, I'm quietly excited as hell. There's so many things that can go wrong whenever you make a major launch like this. There are bigger aspects of it that would make taxi even a larger force in the industry that are possibilities, but I need to have that meeting with the co-CEOs and the president of the company to see if what I think I can do with their technology is doable or not. So I got to decide, am I thinking small, medium, or large, or extra large? If I eat many more of those chocolate-covered coffee beans from Trader Joe's, everything's going to need to be extra large. Is it going to replace dispatch? Well, dispatch is something that we were going to do away with anyway. We're planning on doing away with dispatch about a year and a half or more ago. Actually, 2.5 years ago, I started contemplating taking dispatch and rolling it into regular taxi, because at some point very soon we're going to have to raise the price of taxi. I've been very open about this and have talked about it, quite a bit on, especially on the Quarantinis. Only about 10% of our members use dispatch, and many of them really, really like it. Some of them claim that they've had better success through dispatch. I've not researched that other than seeing the anecdotal evidence I get from them. But as I've said many times before, taxi hasn't raised its price in 29 years. And when you look at, consumer price indexes and like prices of just everyday things like for shoes, groceries, houses, cars, the only thing where prices have gone down would be consumer electronics that I can think of. Everything else has gone up by just huge amounts, and yet taxi is still, at the same price it's always been. Yet our overhead, many aspects of our overhead, we've added aspects of the overhead that we didn't used to have in the beginning. The staff is much larger than it was, even though we're still a relatively small company. The staff is much larger than it was when it was 2 or 3 of us. Everything about it just every year it's like less profitable, less profitable, less profitable, all because of overhead and costs going up. And we keep expanding the service. We used to publish 30 listings a month. We would come out with a group of about 15 on the first of the month and another group of about 15 new listings on the 30th of the month or the 15th of the month. We didn't have as many screeners. We didn't have as many incredibly good screeners as we have right now. The staff has tripled in size easily. The cost of things like rent, advertising, electricity, phones, computers, all that stuff just like gone through the roof. Yes, gas prices. Whoa. Gas prices here are crazy, approaching $5 a gallon for premium here. Anyway, so what we are going to do, hopefully in 2021, this was going to take place in 2020, but for obvious reasons, we decided that would be a really bad time to raise the price, but we are going to raise the price, and I think I'm just going to roll dispatch in so that everybody will have dispatch. That way I can feel like I'm giving people more than what they're already getting. And remember, dispatch, Dan Weber got his first deal through dispatch. Dispatch is, I think, $149.95 a year, $150 a year. So even if we were to raise the price of taxi $100 a year across the board, you're getting something that was $150 now for that extra $100. But that's why I can't comment further because I need to talk to the CEO and the president of the company that owns the robot, if you will, and find out exactly what it would cost us in the different forms it might take with taxi. And, in my perfect world, and I am not making any promises, don't quote me on this, don't go to sleep tonight thinking to yourself as you put your little head on your pillow, oh, that's going to be wonderful. I cannot promise this is going to happen, but I'm going to look at, is it possible to take one aspect of the taxi garage, the use of the bot, and apply it possibly to all music that taxi members have parked, and just include that in the increased price. I'd say there's a 20 or 30% chance of that happening, just going on my gut, because I don't know exactly how it is that we're going to have to charge for this thing. I'd like to do better than break even on it. I really want to roll out what it does for you guys because I think it's going to be kind of life-changing. I'm really confident that there are ways that we can use this technology to help you guys a lot, and almost more importantly, help the industry people, the supervisors, a lot. And I only say more importantly because if we help them a lot and bring something which is speed and quality to them, then they're going to run a lot more listings and you guys benefit from it. So there you go. Send Neo to negotiate for me. There you go. So the singer-songwriter compilation, I didn't check today, but I would be willing to bet if it didn't go out today, it will be going out tomorrow. There you go. Any questions from you guys? Because we've got 21 minutes left and I'm out of my shtick. Got nothing left. Hey, Andre, are you back to guiding right now? Is like fishing back on, or is Canada still locked down? What's going on up there? Yeah, like I said, if we use this technology, there will always be a human involved. All the technology will do will be make things go faster. Um, and I don't know that we couldn't actually use it as it is right now. We could not use it on all taxi listings or the majority of taxi listings. It would primarily be for stuff where supervisors hit us up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and say, I need it when I wake up tomorrow. We can't run that as a listing without having four screeners stay up all night to do it and staff coming in at 7 a.m., blah, blah, blah. So this technology could really help us accomplish that. Here's a question from Pat Wara. Do you have a time frame on the price increase? Sometime this year. I've literally been reading 3 different books on pricing strategies, reading websites about it, and I'm kind of waiting to see. I mean, the economy is kind of hanging in there right now, but everybody keeps talking about inflation. You know, the U.S. is printing money, which almost always causes inflation like crazy. But so far, the stock market is staying pretty healthy. Yesterday was a very good day, if I remember correctly. So I'm trying to take all that stuff into account because timing is a big part of it. You know, I know that we will price it fairly. People go, oh my gosh, it's more money. But the value will be there. I mean, you're getting what? Come on, when you get 2 tickets to the road rally, whether it's virtual or in person, and taxi costs you $300 a year your first year, or you renew for $200 a year, or you could go to the ASCAP Expo, which is a fine conference, and it's like $500 a ticket for one person, and it's just the conference, not a year's worth of taxi TV or Quarantinis, or 3 days of the rally plus 3 or 4 days of prequels, and not to mention listings, 1,000 to 1,200 listings a year. And the listings, the quality of the listings, you guys have to have noticed this over the last 2 or 3 years. Quality of listings are consistently better and better and better all the time. The quality of the music that you guys are making in response keeps getting better and better and better all the time. Taxi really is, we've hit our stride after 29 years. I really get the feeling that a lot of, there's still some people floating around both on the musician side and the industry side. It's like, oh, that taxi thing must be a scam because they charge musicians money. We hear that far less often now, and those people are just plain uninformed, ignorant. And I don't mean like you ignorant a-hole. I mean they're ignorant as in they don't know the facts. But word of mouth amongst industry people who have used taxi is like, oh, hell yeah, I would use that again. I love taxi. Word of mouth, I think last time I checked a few months ago, somewhere around 40% of our new members come from friend referrals now. It used to be, for many years, it was more like 10%. So 40% now. That's pretty incredible. Taxi is a bargain. I love you, Pat Wara. It really is a bargain, only because I've been too afraid to bump the price up all these years. I'm not going to make it ridiculous. I mean, I'm going to be completely honest with you. It's probably going to be $100 a year more, but you will get more than $100 worth of add-ons for the $100. Robbie Hancock says, Michael, you give 2 tickets to the rally for free every year. You're totally within your rights to increase the membership, in my opinion. Thanks, Robbie. Ken Nesford says, free taxi TV 3 days a week with nothing but info to help our members, help your members succeed, including answering the same questions over and over. Yeah. With a smile. You guys kick ass. Thanks, Ken. I sometimes wonder how many times can they hear me answer that same question. But they're always new people, and there's no reason like, okay, I'm going to tell you guys today, but somebody that jumps on the taxi TV bus or gets in the taxi TV taxi, 6 months from now is not going to learn that. No, I do have to repeat it. And quite honestly, human beings respond better to multiple exposures. And advertising, I think 7 is the magic number, the number of times somebody needs to hear something before it starts to stick. Let's see. JP says, I learned 100 times the info at the taxi rally that I learned at the ASCAP thing. ASCAP seminar really has no classes. It's mostly motivational. Robbie Hancock says, I stick up for taxi every time I hear that. Thank you, guys. The road rally, says Ron Schultz. It's like 2 tickets to paradise. Bruce wants to know if I got a renewal in the mail. If I renew now, will I get the additional features that come with the price increase? I'm not 100% sure. I would say probably. That's one of the issues I've got is what about the people that, let's say that somebody just upgraded for the last 3 months of their current membership to Dispatch, and they spent $50 on that roughly. And if we were to roll out the price increase tomorrow with Dispatch rolled into the overall thing, but a price increase, we would have to then go back and look at tons of member records and calculate. I'm sure there's a way I could get our programmer to do this, but it would have to do the calculation on a prorated thing. Like, let's say the price increase was $100, but you paid $50 to upgrade to Dispatch for the last 3 months of your membership, but now you're a month into that 3 months, therefore you've got roughly, $36, I'm just winging the math there, left of Dispatch. So we would have to, if we're going to do the right thing, credit you $36 towards your $100. But what if you don't renew? What if you wait and renew after you've used up the full portion of your Dispatch? See what I mean? So these are all the complications. It's not just as easy as, hey, guess what? We're going to charge you guys more money. It's really, really tough to come up with these answers and figure out how we're going to do it. But whatever we do, we will do it in a first-class way, because we always do. If there's a high road to take, we will take it. Charles Davis, question. I'm sure you've already answered this in the past, but how do you go from audio engineer to taxi A&R, and what was the motivation? The reason I quit making records is like all of a sudden, and I don't mean to sound immodest about this, but all engineers who work at a pro level, especially back in those days in the mid to late 70s and through the 80s, would tell you that you go through stages. You start out as an unpaid intern, then you become an assistant engineer. I think I was getting $1.25 an hour if memory serves. Then you become kind of a hotshot assistant engineer where you're getting requested by big acts to work on their records. And at that point, you're almost an engineer anyway, but there are other guys on the staff that are more experienced, have been around longer, have seniority. So they know because they've been in your shoes. So they start to rely on you more. They start to say things like, I've got a dentist appointment in the morning. I'll be in at 10:30. The band is showing up at 9. What band actually shows up at 9? Can you set up a rough mix for Mary Had a Little Lamb and get them ready to do vocals? And if they show up and had enough coffee and you want to start running down vocals, do it. So you are sitting in the chair. You're acting as an engineer, but you are not the first engineer. So I was at that stage, and by that point in my career, I'd worked with Clapton on several sessions, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young for a couple of months. And then I actually left Criteria. I was producing an album, and I couldn't get time at the studio that I worked at. So I actually left the staff at Criteria. There was a new studio in Fort Lauderdale called Triad Recording that was Criteria equivalent. It's only like 25, 30 miles away. And I took that project there. And truth be told, I was not a very good engineer yet, and I was not a very good producer yet. I'll always get better every time you sit down to do the job. And I loved that studio so much, I ended up staying there and became the staff engineer. And one day Neil Young walked in and went, "Oh, hey now, I remember you." He remembered me from Criteria. "Let's do a record." That was my Neil Young imitation right there. "I've been to Hollywood." There you go. Neil Young, folks. So at that point, I remember, I think I've told you this, Neil said to me, "Man, you worry too much about limiters, compressors, and equalizers. Don't use any more in this record. I want you to learn how to ride levels and good mic placement. Just don't worry about the sound. Capturing the moment, and the feeling is important. The performance is important, much more important than having enough top end on that acoustic guitar." So that was a teaching moment or a learning moment. I learned a lot from Neil and learned what was important. And he was right, you can always add a little more 10K to an acoustic guitar, but capturing the right performance is the important thing. So I became a full-fledged engineer, and I remember working on one song actually with Cheap Trick and some other acts, and was really starting to work with some big people. And then decided, my wife, that first wife, and I decided to move to New York because the scene in South Florida had gotten so bad with the cocaine cowboys. I mean, Scarface literally was like everywhere. Ask anybody who lived in the South Florida scene from like 1975 through 1985. Scarface was a bit of an under-exaggeration. It's not even a word. Understatement. It was just so common to turn on the local news, which was about the only thing we had back then, because CNN had just launched, I think, around 1980, maybe. And you would hear about, a mom and 3 of her kids bound and gagged and shoved in the trunk of a car and murdered by some drug lord thing. There was one case where they shoved a whole family without the dad in the trunk of a car and then torched the car. And it was just so depressing to hear that every night, not some nights, not once a month, but it was becoming an every night thing. And my first daughter was born, and I was not a good dad. My wife, would say, "This kid's 6 months old. You haven't changed a diaper yet." So those things all combined, and working with a famous rock star who really pissed me off one night just caused me to walk out of the studio. I didn't make a big scene or anything, just quietly walked out of the studio. I excused myself to go to the restroom and said, "That's it. We're moving to New York." And we got on a plane, moved to New York, and I started doing audio post. And I found that I could make a nice living, not a fortune, but a pretty nice living, working from 9 a.m. to 6 or 7 p.m., be at home, in time to have dinner with my family, or at least tuck the kids into bed, be a little bit of a dad. And I missed making records, but became good at audio post. I ended up becoming the studio manager and a staff engineer at the largest and best, like the Mercedes-Benz or Rolls-Royce of audio post facilities anywhere in the world. It was a place called Howard Schwartz Recording in New York, which became HSR NY. I learned so much from the engineers on that staff. They were the Bob Clear Mountains of audio post. These guys were great, and they were great people, and I loved every minute of working there. At some point, I became studio manager. My boss left the country for like a year and a half, and I got to run this multi-room facility with big high-end clients every day. And grew the place while he was out of town, and just loved that. I learned about running a business. And then in 1988, I moved to LA and I was running the largest audio post facility out here and was taking it. I was brought out here to see the expansion of that into 2 other locations and grow that business. And then they realized that they couldn't afford to do what they planned. And they said, sorry, we brought you out here. You fired. And I went, whoa. And eventually I was offered a job as general manager of a regular post-production company, not audio, but like film. They did a lot of commercials, a lot of really big commercials at this place. It was called Red Car Hollywood. And then I opened up an office in New York, Red Car New York, and I had an apartment in New York, an apartment in LA, go back and forth. And I was kind of miserable. I missed making records. What I really missed was hearing musicians who made music that had never been heard before. And I was sitting at my desk one day in my office and just thinking about that. And literally in an instant, the idea for Taxi popped into my head. I just thought, there's a lot of great music out there, especially now that home recording is starting. Back then, it was just starting to become a thing. You couldn't do it on a laptop. And all of a sudden I realized, man, all these people that have it in their heart and in their brain can now actually get this stuff recorded. They don't have to go spend $150, $300 an hour for a real studio. I had the idea for Taxi, wrote a business plan that's still sitting about 15 feet away from me. It's probably about 40 pages or so. Sent it to my old best friend from college who had become a successful haircutter with several salons. Had a little bit of money stash. I FedExed him, the business plan, and he called me and said, fly to Dallas. This time you've got a winner. We went and met with his accountant. He gave me a stack of cash, actually, real live cash dollars. I flew back to LA and started Taxi out of a 1-bedroom apartment. And what it did for me was allowed me to use all the stuff I learned about running a business by running other people's businesses. So I got to make my mistakes on their dime. Thank you, Howie. I got that rush back. I mean, to me, honestly, truth be told, it was as exciting, maybe even more exciting for me. Who wouldn't want to be in a control room working with Eric Clapton or Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, bands at that level? But there was something about when I was, if I'd work 3 or 4 months on a record and then have a month off, I would take a week and just sleep and then go back into the studio. And sometimes I would just work with a local band that couldn't afford to do a 24-track legit album. And I would say, tell you what, guys, give me a couple $1,000 and I'll take you in on Saturday and Sunday and play a set. Just play whatever you play in the club live. And I will record it and mix it live to 2-track. And you guys will be thrilled with the result. And if you're not, don't pay me. And bands love that. And sometimes the music I heard from these little unknown, bar bands, just amazing. And it gave me that thrill of discovery. We all like hearing amazing new music. Sometimes it was a bummer, it's like, oh my gosh, why are these guys spending any money at all? But a lot of times I heard stuff that just went, these guys, everybody should hear what they do. And that was kind of the seed that got planted a few years before Taxi was actually a thought in my head. So there you go. Hope I answered that question. Wow, you took guitar lessons from Jock Bartley? Wow. I still remember how I mic'd his amp on the first Firefall record. It's so funny. It was a Fender amp. I want to say it was a Fender Twin. And I put a Sony 377 on one side and a 57 on the right-hand speaker, and then an 87 about 2 feet away from the cabinet. And those were all things that I learned from a guy named Carl Richardson when I was just a little runt at Criteria. And Carl went on to be the Bee Gees co-producer and made a fortune and made great records. So yay, Carl. And he was, remember I interviewed Carl last year for one of the prequels for the Road Rally. All right. Well, we are at 5 o'clock. Jock is awesome. Zero ego. Yeah, I actually still. I haven't talked to Jock in probably 10 years, but I did keep in touch. I used Ricky Roberts, the lead singer from Firefall, Larry Burnett, who wrote the song Cinderella, and was the other vocalist in the band. I used those two guys when I produced a record. I used them as I flew them into Miami to sing backgrounds on that record that I produced. I got Chocolate Perry, who was the bass player for the Stills Young band. At one point, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Got George Terry, who wrote the song Mainline Florida that I believe is on 461 Ocean Boulevard with Eric Clapton. He was in Eric's band for, 5, 6, 7 years, like the second guitarist in the Clapton band. I got him to play a couple of leads on that record. And I believe I had Jock Bartley play a couple rhythm guitar parts on that record. As a matter of fact, I drove them back to their hotel after we finished at like 3 o'clock in the morning one night, and they said, come up to the room for a beer or whatever. And I went up there, and they said, how do you like this song? And they hadn't even finished the lyrics yet. It was a song called Even Steven that I believe made it to the second or third Firefall album. It was a song they wrote about Stephen Stills. Anyway, that was cool. All right, you guys, thanks for hanging with me today. Always enjoyable. I was not able to, I played like Olympic level phone tag with the guest that I wanted to have on this coming Monday's Taxi TV. She and I couldn't connect, so hopefully I'll be able to get her for the following week. So on Monday, we're going to do your favorite thing, which is listen to the top 10. That's always great. So have a great weekend, you guys, and don't forget to give us a like. If you're new and you've not hit the subscribe button, doesn't cost you anything to hit it, makes YouTube love us, and then we get millions and millions of views on our videos, right? Right. All right, take care, you guys. Good hanging with you. Bye-bye.